call the meeting to order. Ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Blake,
Here.
Carberry Montgomery,
Here.
Kroll,
Here.
McBurney,
Here.
Obrecht.
Here.
Please stand as you're able for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Urbandale is a national leader in character counts, endeavoring at all times to promote and model the principles of trustworthiness, respect, responsibility, fairness, caring, and citizenship. In conducting tonight's meeting, we expect that all participants will act in a respectful manner consistent with these principles. Item 2 is to approve the agenda. Is there a motion?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye. What am I supposed to do?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Item 3, presentation. We do have a special presentation regarding the National Utility Contractors Association donation for the trench facility. And I'm going to kick this off. I'm going to recognize Fire Captain Demir Milkovich. Demir.
Mayor, council, staff, citizens of Urbandale, I'd like to bring up NUCA, which is the National Utility Contractors Association. We have 3 representatives here. Better now? I'm loud enough, so I'm sure everyone can probably hear me anyway. But I'd like to bring up these gentlemen. They've had a huge part in this project. This project we started a few years ago when we realized that, hey, we have a little bit of equipment, but we have no way to train, and constantly digging trenches really isn't the way to do it. So this idea came from another department in Alabama. And there's nothing like it anywhere in Iowa, nothing like it in the region. The closest one is, well, there's one in North Wisconsin, but nothing around our vicinity. So we would put this together, and honestly, I thought it would be easy just digging a hole and putting a few branches off it, and it turned out to be a very challenging endeavor. And without these guys, there's no way that we could have been able to accomplish this. Their expertise brought so much to the project, and it's not even the check they presented tonight is fabulous, but the amount of time and the meetings that they put in to make this all happen was huge. So I just want to show some huge appreciation and all the work they put in. So, Jamie?
Good evening. My name is Jamie Krubaugh. I'm the current chapter president for the Iowa chapter of the National Utility Contractors Association. This project was initially put out to public bid, and many of our contractor members kind of decided we need to do something to help this thing come to fruition. So we kind of reached out early on. For some background, utility contractors, we dig trenches. It's what we do. We dig shallow, deep. And so to have something to train folks in the event of an emergency, of a trench collapse, any kind of issue underground is obviously utmost importance to our chapter and to our membership. So we thought this was a very worthwhile project. We got involved early on. Want to thank the city of Urbandale, the Urbandale Fire Department for allowing us to help. Again, this is very important to our membership as much as it is to the fire department and to other departments around that might benefit from this. So we're honored to be a part of it, honored to help both financially and with boots on the ground in the field. So again, appreciate the opportunity to help out and look forward to the partnership in the future.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you so much. We truly appreciate it. Yeah. This is something that's truly a win-win, and hopefully it's never needed, but if it's needed, it's needed. So thank you for that, and it's just invaluable training and expertise that our department will have. So thank you so much for that. Appreciate that. All right, we are in Citizens Forum now. This is the opportunity to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's regular agenda, and I do know that, Adam, you want to recognize? Okay. Recognize you first to come forward if you like. Just give your name and address for the record.
Good evening, Council, Mayor. Thank you for having me. Name is Jonathan Kester, 3985 Scout Trail, Waukee, 50263. I've come tonight to, I've got an ask, and I would like to ask that you reopen an item for consideration. This item that I'm asking is regarding Lot 2, Plat 2, and an amendment to the Plan Unit Development Master Plan. On July 17th, Council voted, Planning and Zoning voted to push this forward. And on August 8th, I think we had a stalemate. And so I'm coming to ask Council to readdress this and consider what our goals are in terms of quality, sustainability, and our experience that we bring to the table from an investment and an operations standpoint. I know that we are certainly interested in continuing to pursue this on all levels and in Urbandale, because we believe in Urbandale, the demographics are there, the metrics are there, and we have good quality people in and around this community, and Urbandale was one of the areas that we identified. So with that, I just wanted to present that as my ask and a thank you. I understand that this may or may not go anywhere based upon the conversation, because I guess I don't know what I don't know, but I do know I appreciate your time this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. Adam Caduce, R&R Realty Group, 1080 Jordan Creek Parkway. We're the landowner in support and working with Jonathan and his group looking at this PUD amendment. And we would have the same ask that there be a vote made to reconsider this item at an upcoming meeting. And I'll just tell you a little bit about where we come from. We're pretty selective when we sell a site. We don't do it really often. We like to develop and own our own property, but there's certain expertise that we don't have and certain businesses we aren't in. So when we go out and we work with buyers of sites to develop them, we want to make sure it's a good fit for the neighbors. We want to make sure it's a good fit for the businesses that are in the area, and ultimately that's going to align with our long-term development plans for the area. We want to make sure that we have a long-term knowledgeable operator. We don't want a site that's going to get dilapidated. We don't want a site that's not going to be continued to be invested in, because we're going to do those to our properties, and we want somebody who's going to come at it with that same attitude. And working with Jonathan and Mike and their group, what we found is we have a high-quality operator. They have a partner that's built these all over the West Coast, understands this business really well. They're well capitalized. They have the ability to continue to invest in this property and continue to make it a car wash and a facility that people in Urbandale can be proud of, and that they're going to be around for a long time. This isn't going to be a site that's here today, gone tomorrow, and they have additional development plans to open more locations in the metro. We have a great new business out there with Worldwide Logistics, but we've also struggled to attract businesses and retain businesses to that area. We've had some businesses move out of that area. And as we work with those businesses, the number one issue that they face is a lack of services and amenities that's in that area. We think the Meredith on 128th Street is going to develop into a great retail area, but we've got to be able to take and support the retails and the services that are coming in the market to this area. We think we've got a great operator here, and they're ready to move forward. So with that, we'd ask that you reconsider this item and bring it up for public hearing at a different council meeting. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Adam. All right. City Attorney Bob, are you on?
I am, Mr. Mayor.
Bob, can you just address the procedure for this?
Yes, I certainly can. This would be a motion to reconsider, and it would have to be made by either Councilmember Kroll or Councilmember McBurney, because they were on the winning side, if you will, since it was 2-2 vote. And this is not an agenda item. And so this could have been set on the agenda had one of the council members requested it. But this is not a public hearing. So the only thing that would have been done would have been a motion to reconsider. And if that was in the affirmative, then at that point, we would have then been at the point where we would have started all over again with the public hearings. Because we closed the public hearing 2 weeks ago. This is not a public hearing this evening.
All right. So with the fact that we don't have it on the agenda tonight, I mean, does the motion to reconsider have to occur tonight?
Yes, yes. It's at our next regular scheduled council meeting.
Okay.
And that's been our policy for, pardon me?
Absent of it being on the agenda is not fatal. They could still make the motion to reconsider for a future council meeting at this, but it has to be done tonight, correct?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Either council member Kroll or council member McBurney.
Yep. All right.
And then anybody could second it.
Okay. So with that,
I'm not interested in bringing it up for reconsideration.
I'm not either.
okay, so neither of you are inclined to make a motion to reconsider, then motion dies. So, or there is no motion. So, all right. All right. So that there is no motion to reconsider. So, all right. Thank you. All right. We are still in citizens forum. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on something that's not a part of tonight's agenda? All right. Seeing none, then we'll move on. Item 5 would be the adoption of the minutes first from the August 7 meeting, item 5.1.
I'll move approval of the City Council Plan and Zoning Commission joint work session.
Okay, motion
minutes.
by Carberry Montgomery,
Second?
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Blake abstains.
That's a new one. That passes. Then item 5.2 is the work session minutes from the August 8 meeting.
I'll move approval of City Council work session minutes from August 8th.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Blake abstains.
That passes. And then item 5.3 is the city council minutes from August 8.
Move approval of City Council meeting minutes from August 8th.
Okay, motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Blake abstains.
That passes. Item 6, the consent agenda. We have 16 items on the consent agenda for approval.
Move approval of consent agenda?
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Carberry Montgomery. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Moving on then to public hearings. Item 7, first is item 7.1, a public hearing to consider the development agreement for Marketplace 4280 LLC. The public notice for this was published in the August 11, 2023 Des Moines Register, and asks if there are any objections to that notice is published.
There were none.
Ask for a motion to open the public hearing.
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that passes. And to introduce this is our Economic Development Director, Aaron DeYoung. Aaron?
Oh, they're all going on me. There was a timing on here that's moving all the slides, and that would be bad. Pardon me just a second. There we go. Might have to do it this way. Okay, thank you for that little brief thing there. So Aaron DeYoung with the Economic Development Department, thank you for the time tonight. This will be the first of 4 development agreements. We like to stagger it. We like to get these into clumps, and a four pack is what you get tonight. So the first here is a development agreement with Marketplace 4820 LLC. In the agenda packet, I switched some numbers around, forgive me with that. So it's 4820 LLC is the one there. I think in the memo I had 4280.
So this is the buildings on the southwest quadrant of the 100th Street interchange along the interstate, with the entity being controlled by Temple Real Estate there. So here is a map of it showing you that's the corner. Just to the west is the Quick Star, and then one of the buildings, which looks very familiar. This is one of the rendering, but the real building is looking like that. That's Building 1. This would be a development agreement for the whole property, so it's ultimately to be a 4-building project. The first building is almost done, with retail tenants going into that, a salon, a Remax office, as well as the donut land. And so we're excited with that, and they should be opening here any day now. So what this development agreement is to offer up, if there are qualifying tenants for this, to in this building. The second building will be started here pretty soon. DeMoss, one of the orthopedic firms here in the metro, is pursuing this location, as well as a third building, which could come soon after. It's a 3,000 square foot standalone building on the property. So to the development agreement, this is for our standard 5-year TIF rebate, which is available to projects through our urban renewal plan. And they would need to be qualifying businesses, so basically non-retail entities to go that, and there needs to be positive job creation on the property to be eligible. And then through the process, they submit annual certifications with that. So with the improvements and what we expect the improvements to be by qualifying tenants, that would be $6 million added to the tax rolls. And then with the estimations of the rebates would be almost $191,000 in rebates over the 5-year period. So that is the brief presentation for that. Happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron from the council?
I was just curious, is this going to be like a urgent care DMOS, or will be like a full
It would be a clinic, is
service?
my understanding. Not an urgent care.
Okay.
So from the rendering, it's just going to be built right next to it, so it'll be a straight line of, is that what it's going to look like?
Yeah, so that's according with the site plan that was approved a couple of years ago. So Building 1 and then Building 2 would be directly to the north with all the front doors facing the east, like the existing, the almost completed building is.
Okay.
So DMOS would be in the northern building of those two in line. And then the third building will be onto the corner closest to the intersection.
Okay.
Is the plan.
Okay, perfect. That's all I have.
Any further questions? All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay, seeing none, then is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
Okay, that passes.
Approve resolution 166-2023.
Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 7.2 is a public hearing to consider the development agreement for Marsh 1 LLC. The public notice for this was also published in the August 11, 2023 Des Moines Register. Are there any objections to that? Notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that passes. Aaron?
Great, thank you, Mayor. Now we're moving down the interstate and got off on the Meredith interchange. Can't do it going from the west. Just bear with me on that. You got on your mountain bike and you hopped over. So now we're here over on Meredith, and this is a development agreement with Marsh 1 LLC. That's an entity that's controlled by R&R Real Estate, and this is the Crescent Building. That is the newly rebranded building that formerly had Marsh and Mercer as a sole tenant. And so this project is to make that into a multi-tenant building. And so R&R is going to be doing improvements to this building to do that with a list of improvements here that's in the development agreement. So, taking out the big cafeteria and then installing fitness center, lobby areas, multi-purpose areas, the wellness room, conference rooms, and then having a new entrance that's more grand for multi-tenants to do that rather than the one tenant entrance like it was for the previous sole tenant of Marsh and Mercer. So with this, because it's an existing building, we are going to use the January 1st of 2023 valuation for increases in value beyond that for qualifying tenants. And so qualifying tenants in this agreement will be that they need to be 5-year leases. Those new tenants each need to show positive job creation here in Urbandale. And then also qualifying tenants need to be greater than 20,000 square feet. With that. If there is a tenant moving that's from outside Urbandale to be in accordance with our fair play agreement with our other communities in town, we need to get a letter from them saying that they approve of the incentive of this agreement to go towards that. So the 20,000 square foot lease was in there so that the smaller lease spaces, which we have much of in Urbandale, isn't impacted by this changing of property qualification here for Urbandale. So, and then that'll all be reviewed through annual certification process like we normally do. The incentive would then be a 3-year 90% TIF rebate on improved value above the 2023 valuation. So with that, we're through our estimations, we're estimating that at $7 million would be increase $7 million from that valuation. And then utilizing the 3-year 90% would be $413,000 in rebates would go to the property owner for that. That ends my brief presentation with that one. Happy to answer any questions.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. Questions on this from the council? We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Okay. Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes.
Motion to approve resolution 165-2023.
Motion by McBurney, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes.
Wait a minute.
She only showed 3 votes on her, and so moved by Obrecht. Did we get that right?
And disappeared.
It was moved by Larry, seconded by Matt, but it doesn't show a vote for
Mine's gone.
Bridget or Adam.
Let me resend that for votes here.
Oh, what the heck just
Some of them didn't register.
Try it again.
there now it went.
There we go. All right, that passes. Thank you. Item 7.3 is a public hearing to consider the development agreement for Prairie Tower Building 1 LLC. The public notice for this was also published in the August 11, 2023 Des Moines Register, and is there any objections to that notice is published? Is there a motion to open the public hearing? Motion by Blake,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Aaron?
Okay, thank you, Mayor. We just swung our leg back over the bike. We left the Crescent Building. Now we're hanging a right after the chicken coop, and we're going up to Prairie Tower Building 1 LLC Development Agreement, which is here in the blue, just north of Meredith, north of the new Fast and Fresh here. So with that, this is a development agreement with Prairie Tower Building 1 LLC. This is another entity controlled by R&R Realty, and they are under construction on a 234,000 square foot industrial flex building. The tilt up just started coming up the last couple weeks, so it's always cool to see that happen. With this, I should also note that when 128th Street was first designed in the business park as well, we had storm sewer put underneath there. With the new regulations that we have for stormwater, that ended up being undersized. And so part of this development agreement is to assist R&R in doing those that increased in volume underneath 128th Street with a $125,000 city contribution. The main development agreement terms with this one is our standard 5-year TIF rebate, and they need to be leasing out to eligible commercial businesses. This is a spec building on the industrial flex side, so as those tenants come up, they will likely all be eligible because it's only non-retail, or it's only retail businesses that aren't eligible. So Again, the 5-year standard TIF rebate is eligible for this. We are expecting a $16 million increase in building valuation for this project, and that would then translate into a $1,145,000 in future rebates to be generated on this project. That ends my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right.
Is this expected to be a single tenant or,
It's,
I mean,
it's certainly designed to be multi-tenanted, but
so if only half of it gets leased,
the improved,
do they still get the full?
yes, only,
Okay.
things are not eligible for rebate only if it's leased to tenants that aren't qualifying. So if it ends up being, for instance, if it is vacant for the whole 5 years, they would still get the rebates because it's not leased to non-qualifying tenants.
But the valuation wouldn't be as high if it's not leased.
Correct, yes, there wouldn't be tenant improvements that are propping up and increasing the building value.
Got it.
All right, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes.
Motion to move resolution 164-2023.
Motion by Kroll. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 7.4 is a public hearing to consider the development agreement for the Urban Loop Building 1 LLC. The public notice for this was also published in the August 11, 2023 Des Moines Register. Are there any objections to that notice?
There were none.
Is there a motion to open this public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that passes. Aaron?
Great, okay, and this is our last development agreement, or my last development agreement to bring to you this evening. And so, you know, with the improvements along the urban loop, particularly the interchanges, now we're starting to see the fruits of that investment. And this is the last one tonight with Urban Loop Building 1 LLC. This is directly across 128th Street from the project we just talked about, right at the border of the community with Grimes. So this is with Urban Loop Building 1 LLC, and that's an LLC headed up by Van Trust Real Estate out of Kansas City. This will be their first project here in the community. And the project is to build a big building at 450,000 square feet. It's going to be designed, it is designed as a cross-dock industrial building, so that helps facilitate less touches of packages and freight for clients that would be utilizing this facility or tenants to make their supply chain management more efficient. And this is would be qualifying tenants just like this with our standard five-year standard TIF rebate agreement. And so again, they need to show positive job creation with those. And this one, we are estimating a $43 million building valuation when this is all done. 450,000 square feet will get you a number like that. And so with calculating the rebate structure is that we estimate $2.7 million in TIF rebates to be earned during the 5-year period. So that is the end of my presentation. Happy to answer any questions.
All right. Thank you, Aaron. Questions from council? We are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this item? Yes, so please come up here, please. Give your name and address for the record.
Jason Crowley, Urbandale resident. I just had a question about exactly.
Your name, address for the record, please.
What's that?
Your address for the record, please.
Can't understand you.
Your address, your address.
Oh, 9316 Hickory Drive,
Okay.
Urbandale. I just had a question exactly where this is located in Urbandale. It said across 128th, but is it on like the south side of Meredith? Is that it?
North of Meredith, east of 128th. So behind the chicken coop.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Terrific.
Okay. Is there anyone else who'd like to address the council on this item? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that passes. Item, excuse me, let's close the public hearing. I have a motion on the item, sorry, got ahead of myself.
Motion approved resolution 167-2023.
Okay, motion by Blake. Second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that passes. Thank you, Aaron. Item 7.5 is a public hearing to consider the Duval property rezoning at 2805 128th Street. The public notice for this was also in the August 11, 2023 Des Moines Register. Is there any objections to that? Notice is published.
There were none.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Kroll. Second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
Okay, that passes. And to introduce this is our Community Development Director, Steve Franklin. Steve?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, all. I only have a one pack on the rezoning tonight. My apologies, but at least I have something. So this is a property on the east side of 128th, outlined here in red, Hickman Road here at the bottom. This is 128th. So we're about a third of a mile north of Hickman Road. It's addressed as 2805 128th Street. It's about 1.35 acres in size. And this, like other properties we have scattered around town, this would remove the nonconformities with respect to lot area, lot width, and setbacks. It's a property that's changing hands. Whenever that happens, if it hasn't been rezoned, we always recommend that the parties rezone it, again, to take away those nonconformities. So this is the property in question. Planning and Zoning Commission recommends approval of the rezoning. Be happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Questions for Steve on this?
I guess the rest of the lot to the east that looks like it's gonna exist without any frontage or zoning. I mean, eventually that'll need to get rezoned too, I'm guessing.
It will. There's a party that owns all of these other pieces, and we've been discussing for quite some time what to do with these other parcels. So at one time, this was split off way back in the day, and it leaves this piece. It's under different ownership, but it's the same ownership as these other two properties. So I think there is probably some redevelopment coming down the road.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions for Steve? Again, we are in public hearing on this item. Would anyone like to address the council on this? All right, seeing none, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Motion by Carberry Montgomery,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
Something weird.
It's fine.
Worked out. It works.
Yeah.
That passes. Is there a motion on the item?
Oh, move to approve Council Letter 7540.
Motion by Kroll, second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
And that item passes. All right, that concludes our public hearings. Item 8 is to establish new public hearings. We just have one, item 8.1, to establish a public hearing for amendment number 1 to the second amended and restated Northwest Market Center Urban Renewal Plan. And that would set the date for August 30, 2023 as that public hearing. Curtis will answer any questions if there are.
Move Council Letter 7544.
Motion by Obrecht, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 9, planning and zoning items. First is item 9.1, the Auto Barn condominium site plan at 3300 109th Street. Steve?
Okay, so here is an aerial photo. This is literally about the last vacant lot in this corridor, in this particular development, which is the Walnut Ridge Business Park. This is 109th Street here. Douglas is up just off the top of the screen. And so we're talking about this vacant parcel that is here on the west side of 109th Street. This is proposed to be basically a high-end storage facility. There are three, let me go to the site plan here and show you what this looks like. So there is what's proposed on this lot, an entrance off of 109th. It would be 3 general warehouse buildings on this parcel. They would total about 69,500 square feet. The parcel is just under 5 acres in size. And it has about 385 feet of frontage on 109th Street. It is zoned M1, going to be regulated by private covenants for the overall Walnut Ridge Business Park. This is one of the few areas in town where they still have a group that reviews proposed projects architecturally and otherwise. What they're proposing here is about 40 individual tenant spaces, with sizes ranging from about 1,500 square feet to just over 2,000 square feet. And then each space would have an overhead garage door and also a pedestrian door. So again, it's envisioned to be a higher end based on the architecture with tilt-up concrete, a higher end storage facility, probably for people that have cars, maybe boats, things like that. So there is 1 parallel parking space in front of each unit, and then also some room to provide shared parking in the future should they ever need that. There's an area here where they could put some spaces and a couple spaces up here should that be needed in the future, depending on what kind of uses go in there. So Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval. Subject to items noted, and you may have noticed there was some discussion in there about the sidewalk. And City Engineer John Larson is here and kind of walk you through that a little bit more. This happens to be an area, let me go back to the aerial photograph, where there aren't really sidewalks in this area. We did for Crescent Electric, which is located here at the corner of Justin and 111th a couple of years ago. We did require them to put sidewalk in, so there is sidewalk on this parcel here. You can see the crosswalk there at the corner. And so, again, what the code requires, and John could walk through this with you, code requires that if you're gonna get a building permit for a project, you put sidewalk in or you bond for it. At some point in the future, and John can address this, we will do a sidewalk project in this area to get sidewalk through here. Now that you have Quick Star up at the corner, there is more of an opportunity to maybe do some walking, but that's just something that needs to be decided on what you would want to do in terms of requiring that sidewalk. So, John, anything you'd want to add or when the sidewalk project might happen?
Sure. Good evening. Like Steve said, we're just planning ahead. I think the way the code reads, they'd be required to do the sidewalk. And we're just starting to kind of go back into these business areas and add sidewalks as an amenity that are being requested. For instance, starting next year, we'll have it in the Aurora Business Park. Over the next 3 years, we'll be adding sidewalks in there. So again, I think by code, it would need to be the sidewalk installed with the site plan, or they could provide a bond for future installation of it. It's not in the code, but I think if the council would choose, they could probably require a petition and waiver, in which case, whenever we did a sidewalk project through there, that would help us get the sidewalk built as well.
Okay.
I guess I didn't follow what you just said about the petition and waiver.
But basically, so again, they could build it themselves, which means the sidewalk would be in front of their property. They could provide a bond, in which case later we could tell them, hey, we're calling the bond, you need to build the sidewalk, or we're doing it with our own project, in which case we have a bond funds to make sure it gets paid for. Petition and waiver would do the same thing, that basically we'd be coming through, do an assessment project. Petition and waiver says they can't challenge us or disagree with the assessment, so we'd be basically, they wouldn't be able to prevent us from doing it or challenge us.
So they would just have to pay at that time.
Correct. That would let them delay all costs until which time we did a project.
So our choices are pay now, do a bond, or require them to pay when we do the project.
Correct.
Okay.
But if they pay now, we don't necessarily know if that's going to be the amount.
Sorry, what?
If they pay now, we don't necessarily know that's going to be the amount in the future, though.
Well, they would have to put it in now, right?
Well, yeah, either they
put it in now.
install it now, or we'd get a bond that would definitely cover a future installation cost. Yep.
Or the petition waiver is they just gotta pay at a future date and time. Do they pay actual cost at that time?
Correct, they pay actual costs at that time.
That's what we typically do, isn't it, John?
We have, I guess, again, looking at our code though, it's been the, most site plans you put it in. I think over time, we've always kind of waived sidewalks in these industrial areas, but that's kind of changed with more and more requests for the sidewalks. So again, looking back at the code saying that either you build it now or you bond, I just think the petition waiver is a good alternate that could hold off their cost till a later date.
You eliminate the cost of the bond that way too.
Correct, yep.
That seems like a reasonable approach to me, the petition and waiver.
Do they have a preference?
I
Brad, do you have any, you guys have any further direction from David or?
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the council. I'm Brad Keel with Bishop Engineering, 3501 104th Street here in Urbandale, representing the ownership group tonight on this project. Steve did a nice job summarizing the project, and yes, we would like to respectfully request waiver of the sidewalk requirement totally. There are, again, no sidewalks in this area. I understand that they may be planned or do something in the future. The other thing I would mention is that if you've been up and down that street, you notice that there's a lot of grade change between the street, the right-of-way, and to these particular sites. So once we put in a sidewalk, then we're going to be required to put in an ADA access to the public sidewalk, which I guess I'd be curious to know then at that time if those other businesses are going to be required to do that. But we would have to be required to do that in the beginning, and that's going to be very challenging for us from this site to get back up to that public sidewalk on an ADA connection. So I'm happy to answer any questions regarding that, listen to your discussion. I guess if there's a choice we have to make, a petition waiver would be the way to go whenever that's required in the future, but that's what we'd respectfully like to see waived totally.
All right.
Since he did mention this is the last development in this area, there's been no sidewalks out here, and it's just not a walkable area.
Okay. Understand. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brad.
John, what do you think the time frame on us doing this as a project?
I really haven't looked at a time frame because again, we started, years ago going through all the residential areas. Now we've kind of hit some of the business parks again, starting with the Aurora Business Park. So, it could be 5 to 10 years. Again, it's not really programmed at this time.
And I guess an area like this, do you end up with double sidewalks both sides of the street, or you just kind of really cover one to get some traffic movement like 104th was?
It may be only one side. We'll have to see how things work. Again, that's how we're starting off in the Aurora Business Park, is we're doing it on one side.
So we have to make a decision on the three choices with the sidewalk tonight. Okay.
Well, I think regardless, the owner has the option to build it or bond. Either way, it's if you want to give them a third option for petition and waiver.
Okay. Well, I'd be fine making the motion or adding the petition waiver to this.
Okay. You want to do it then?
Guess we do it then?
Is that a motion?
I guess, do I need a motion? Motion.
We need to move the site plans with the addition of a potential petition and waiver for the sidewalk.
Roger.
That's your motion?
Roger Dodger.
Sure.
All right, is there a second to that?
Second.
Motion by Blake, second by Obrecht. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That item passes. All right, thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Item 9.2 is the Baird Estates Plat 3 final plat at 142nd Street and North Park Drive.
Okay, here's an aerial photograph of this area. This was part of the big Roble PUD from back several years ago, and as it continues to develop here in pieces, 142nd and Waterford Road is the corner right here. These are going to be lots on the south side of North Park Drive, so we're talking about this area right here. So just immediately west of 142nd Street, south of Waterford Road. And I can go to the actual plat drawing. And so here are the lots. This is 6.4 acres in size for this plat. Again, as I mentioned, part of the Roble property PUD. It is 25 single-family residential lots, and you can see them here lined along the south side of what will be North Park Drive. And these are lots with a minimum width of 50 feet. Planning and Zoning Commission does recommend approval subject to items noted. Be happy to answer questions.
Just quick reminder, I mean, a 50-foot lot's a little narrower than some other parts of the city, obviously. Just what size of housing would we expect on a 50-foot lot?
We are going to be looking, this is one, and there's been others like this. When we get to these smaller lots, we do want to review the house plans. So we haven't seen those yet to know exactly what kind of square footages we're talking about. When I started 18 years ago, everything was 75 feet or wider. In the past 3 or 4 years, we had out just south of Radiant, we had those 46-foot lots. They were just a little too narrow. 50 seems to be kind of a more popular number. This is probably, I would guess, the 4th or 5th plat we've had that has had at least some 50-footers in there. So this particular area, like some other areas, are kind of nice because it's a mix of 50, 60, 70. There's all kinds of different sizes out there.
So the houses that are built on this, what are the usual price points then for these?
That I don't know, because they're just all over the place. I don't know, is anybody here that knows what that number might be at this point? Yeah,
No.
So,
Where's
not
Julie
sure.
Rothler when you need
You
her?
know, generally, yeah. What is good about it is that it is certainly market driven, and these smaller 50, 60-foot lots, because it's smaller, it is a more affordable house. Now, what does that really mean, And of course, depending on what kind of materials you put on the inside of the house, that can really vary how much a house costs. But it is lowering the price point some for people. We still have lots of the wider lots, but we've got now some of these smaller lots too, which I think is good.
Move approval of resolution 174-2023.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Cartenbrand Montgomery. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that item passes. Moving on to item 10, regular agenda items. Item 10.1, to consider the liquor license renewal application for WG Deli LLC, DBA Fat Charlie's Tavern, located at 3825 121st Street. And Chief Ranson, Chief, are you going to make a presentation or? Questions only, all right. Are there any questions? Is there a motion?
Move approval, council letter 7538.
Second.
Okay, motion by Blake, second by McBurney. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Blake votes aye.
Great, that item passes. Item 10.2 is to consider the letter of understanding for the Des Moines Area Association of Professional Firefighters, AFL-CIO Local 4. And Aaron would answer any questions if there are any.
Move approval of council letter 7543.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by Obrecht. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 10.3 is consider the engineering services agreement for 142nd Street paving from Meredith Drive to Waterford Road. And John will answer any questions if there are.
Motion to approve council letter 7534.
Motion by McBurney. Second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 10.4 is consider the engineering services agreement for the Walnut Creek Regional Park Trail and Bridge.
Motion to approve council letter 7533.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 10.5 is consider the traffic signal maintenance agreement with Iowa Signal Inc.
Move approval of council letter 7537.
Motion by Obrecht,
Second.
second by Kroll. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. Item 10.6 is to consider the Polk County Community Development Block Grant Program. Introduce this is John Conyer, our Director of Risk Management and Support Services. John? Yeah, you're away. I thought I saw you back there.
I guess, Mayor, members of council, I'll be short on it. I know Sean Bagnowski, I believe, is here to discuss and to bring you up to date on the Polk County CDBG program that is out there. Be happy to answer any questions on staff's recommendation, or if not, I'll take questions after Sean gives his presentation. So Sean, if you'd like to come on up, sir, please do.
Mr. Mayor, council members, I actually don't have a presentation ready, but I can talk a little bit about it if we have any questions about the CDBG program. We found out this spring, actually in about June, that Polk County was one of only 19 cities and counties in America that was eligible for the CDBG program and didn't participate in it. We have Des Moines, West Des Moines that both participate and have their own programs. Historically, we had relied on the state program, so we didn't pursue it ourselves. After talking with the supervisors this spring, we decided to go ahead and put our participation in with the Housing and Urban Development Agency, and we thought that would be the first step to everything. And then we found out quickly that they had an agreement, they had city council resolutions that they wanted us to communicate with all the cities, and we've been throwing it together as quickly as we can. We have September 4th as our deadline to get everything done for the supervisors. All of the cities in Polk County, other than Ankeny, are participating in this program, and we would welcome to work on it with Urbandale as well. I'll take any questions.
All right.
Oh, and I should say, I'm sorry, it's $1 million a year, which is a lot of money, but when you think about 12 different cities across Polk County per year, it stretches pretty thin pretty quick as well. So it's a lot of money, but also when you think about the whole program, it's not as much as we'd love it to be.
And I understand there's no upfront cost for Urbandale to participate in this.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Sean, what's the amount of staff time that we would have to dedicate to this?
So it depends on what you would apply for. For staff time, if you don't apply for any funding, there would be no staff time. If you applied for funding, it would depend on what you're applying for. So we have one city in the metro who doesn't have a multifamily inspection program, and they want to use the funding for that. Obviously, that would be a lot of staff time. So they're requesting staff time with that. If you're applying for streetlights or sidewalks, obviously there's not a lot of administration there. So I would think the staff time would be minimal. So it would be depending on what you all would consider that you would apply for.
So the staff time only comes into play if we're applying for a specific chunk of funding?
Correct.
Through this grant? Okay, thank you.
But it would be eligible to pay for staff, like the city that you're referring to is really only paying for staff.
Correct.
To run the program. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the staff recommendation is to defer participation. I disagree with the staff recommendation and would move that we participate in the Polk County Community Development Block Grant Program.
I would second that.
Okay, it's a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
So my only question is, how many programs have we submitted through the CDBG program in the past? Because from my understanding, if we participated at the county level, we can't participate at the state level. So have we utilized this at the state level at all? Zero. Okay, thanks, Nikki. I appreciate that. And so would we receive any assistance from the county by participating with the county for like the audit services that are associated with running some of these programs through?
Yeah, if you applied for funding and if there were an audit component to what you're doing, then you could use the funding you receive for administrative expenses like
For the administrative portion of it, okay.
But the kicker here and the whole discussion that we're having is HUD doesn't want any localities to be able to double dip essentially and apply for county funding through CDBG and through the state as well. So that's why they make every city choose which one they want to be part of.
Got it.
We just wish we would have had more time to figure all this out. 60 days is pretty tight, and I think that's where a lot of the confusion has come from.
And so really there is no difference in program requirements or anything between?
The program itself is the same for cities, for counties, for states. Cities, counties, and states can all choose to narrow what they focus on. So For Polk County, we're going to focus on all of the eligible CDBG activities. The state of Iowa has narrowed it to some degree to focus on Main Street development in small towns, to focus on a revolving water fund and some of the other activities.
And you did leave an out in the event that we did hit 50,000 population and wanted to exit and become our own separate CDBG entity, right?
Yeah, if the city of Urbandale ever hits the population threshold and could become its own CDBG program, we would support that. We think that's a great idea. You would receive a letter from us, and you would also receive a letter from HUD asking if you want to participate, similar to the letter that we got. The other part, several cities have asked about an opt-out provision explicitly in the contract. So the agreement that we put together does have a provision in there that specifically says that the cities can opt out at any time.
Okay, so there is no downside to this. Gotcha. Thanks, Sean.
All right, we have a motion by Carmen Montgomery, second by Kroll. Any further discussion? If not, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
All right, that item passes. Thank you, Sean. Item 10.7 is considered the swim lesson agreement amendment number 1 for Goldfish Swim School. And Jan, you got something to present to us? Our Parks and Rec Director, Jan Herkey.
Mayor, members of the council, before you tonight is updated resolution and amendment to the addendum to the agreement that we currently have with Goldfish Swim School. If you recall, in 2020, we started the agreement with Goldfish after our pool closed, and we have the price or the cost at the initial was $84 for swim lessons. And as we know, and it's a national crisis for trying to find swim instructors and running a pool. And so in 2021, that was $94, and 22 was $104, and this year it's $114. So I wanted to share that. I know I reflected the cost in 2020 was $84, but currently the group swim lessons are $114. So proposed tonight, I know that through our discussions and through your efforts in the last 2 years of trying to meet the needs of our community, especially those that are lesser advantaged, we are proposing a pilot program for a voucher program. So what is proposed with that voucher programs would be free swim lessons for Urbandale residents that would qualify. Now, to qualify, you need to, as with any of our programs, you have to be an Urbandale resident. And for school-age kids, to be on the school district's free and reduced lunch. Currently, for our programs, we don't widely promote scholarships, but as families come to us, we probably provide 8 to 12 scholarships a year for our program, so it's not a significant number. That's why we're proposing for this is a maximum of 25, and just getting a feel. If all of a sudden we get more than that, we certainly can come back to you, or during the new fiscal year of, we'll have time then to react to that. And if we get a great response, then during the budget session, we might be requesting for more. So how this would work is if family came to us, it would be executed through our department. So we would provide the voucher for the family. They would bring the voucher to Goldfish. The city and Goldfish would work out the reimbursement, and so the city, the family doesn't have to worry about any of that. It would qualify them for 3 months of swim lessons, value of $300. The retail cost is $342, so that's where the Goldfish Swim School is working with us and providing some of that subsidy. And we can't guarantee if a family would go to every swim lesson or show up once. So it's an advantage in our mind for Goldfish that we certainly value their partnership, and hopefully these families will take advantage of it. It is 1 per year per family member. So if you do it for 3 months, you can't sign up for another 3 months. We want to make sure that we provided as to many families as we can during this year. The city does propose that we'll continue to provide the subsidy for families of that $25 membership fee. The city would subsidize that. And it would be a maximum of $50 per family. So if you have 4 kids, it's still maximum of $50 per family.
And that's for any family in Urbandale?
Correct. Right. That's
that's
not
totally
part of.
separate then.
That's totally separate. Thank you for asking that. That's totally separate than the voucher program. So if anybody wanted to sign up for swim lessons, the subsidy the city and staff is proposing is that we continue to offer that annual membership, that families don't have to worry about that. That is an annual, it's not a one-time, because Goldfish has an annual membership fee. So, and then they invoice us as it works in their system. Right now, this past calendar year, we had 518 participants participating in the program. So many families are taking advantage of it. I did ask, are those repeat numbers? And those are not. Those are individual participant numbers. So the program has been working. I think this is something that we've talked about. How do we reach the families that can't afford this? And we're excited to see how it works out. We certainly will keep you updated if this does get approved tonight. Be happy to answer any questions you might have.
All right, I have two really quick ones. So these families, would this be word of mouth? I'm assuming, or are we promote, like how would we find these 25?
In all likelihood, many of the kids that are in the MAC program would likely benefit from this, so we can be in communications with those families and making that option available. Again, we don't have 100 of these, so it would be wonderful if all 25 were used right away, and then we have another discussion to come to you with. But that's the point of we no longer have that aquatic presence that the city runs, so having this partnership right here in Urbandale is a great opportunity.
And then my second one, is this coming out of existing Parks and Rec budget then? Okay.
Correct. We do have funding for the aquatic partnerships, and that's why we limited to 25. Between the Clive, last year, the Clive partnership that we had was about $25,000. So we anticipate that to be a little bit more this year. That's why we limited at 25. So yes.
Okay.
It is currently in the budget. And then a question did come up, how about the kids that aren't in school, if they're younger than school age? And we have done this on the honor system. We have never gone to show us your income and so forth. We've never in my 25 years had somebody that has blatantly taken advantage of this. So usually if they come to us, we want to make it as easy as possible for them to take advantage of these programs.
I'm very excited about this trial program. I'd love if we could find a different name than a voucher, but that has some other connotations in our state right now. But I mean, teaching kids to swim is so important, and I know your background is in aquatics, and with my kids working lifeguarding, teaching swimming lessons. This is so important that we teach kids safety, water safety, and I hope you come to us in January and ask us for more money. And I also want to.
I never have a problem.
I know, but I mean, I think this is what we should be, one of the things that we should be spending our money on, especially since we don't have a pool. And also, I just want to make sure that we're reaching kids that are in other school districts than Urbandale. There's West Des Moines kids that go to Clive, Learning Academy, and Crestview, I think, and Waukee schools as well, that have some free and reduced lunch kids. So I don't know, probably working with the school counselors or letting them know that this is available would be a good idea. But I'm super excited about this. Great. I guess I could move approval if there's no more questions. I know Bob would like that.
Let's say, if you're super excited, is that a motion? That's the same question.
I'm super excited to move resolution 175-2023.
Okay. Motion by Carberry Montgomery, second by Blake. Discussion, please vote.
Blake votes aye.
That passes. All right, thank you. Thanks, Jan. Item 10.8 is consider the purchase of the trench rescue equipment. And Acting Chief Cardwell, I'll turn it over to you.
Mayor, members of council, you have before you tonight a motion to purchase our trench rescue equipment. And as we get started, I would like to acknowledge Captain Milkovich, who was here earlier for the NUCA presentation. He heads our special operations and rescue program and has put a tremendous amount of effort into putting our program, training, and equipment together. he's here tonight because he's the one that put together the list with all the special equipment that, so if you have anything specific you want to ask, I'm going to defer to him. But overall, this is to purchase the specialized rescue equipment that we would need, which will become part of our trench rescue response package. So a number of different specialized items that we need in order to get down in the trench and secure it so that our firefighters can get in and safely rescue somebody if they were is subject to a trench collapse. So happy to answer any questions for you.
All right, thanks, Chief.
I think this is, I mean, we talked about this earlier, but this is such a good consortium of, you know, cities that we pulled together, and you guys are so good in the fire department of doing that on so many different things, and reaching out to outside companies to help out with this. And this is something I'm really proud of, that I'm very proud of the fire department all the time, but particularly I think this just shows good government that we do in Urbandale to benefit everybody. So thank you.
Thank you.
Move approval of Council Letter 7536.
Motion by Kroll,
Second.
second by McBurney. Discussion, please vote.
We don't have to be testing the equipment,
Blake
right?
votes aye.
Okay, just
Oh, but Captain, Captain, you are
the
going to
top
include
feeders
this.
there, so.
You are going to include this in your fire academy, right? So I can come back next year and see it in action.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Larry volunteers to go.
I look forward to it.
Make sure we all know when that is.
Happy to let you know.
All right,
Some good
thanks, guys.
video opportunity.
It'll be a really good video
Very
opportunity.
pleased to know when that is.
All right, item 10.9 is the economic development update. Aaron?
Is this the work session part of the,
It is, yes. This is lunch for dinner.
where's the dinner?
Linner.
Where's the pizza?
Yeah.
Linner or leopard?
Okay, well, thank you, Mayor and Council, for the opportunity to give you a brief 15-minute kind of presentation on kind of the efforts in the Economic Development Department and what we've been up to. And I wanted to focus the presentation just a little bit. And so 3 things I wanted to communicate with you. One is our Economic Development Plan. It's a good staff document that we utilize to focus our efforts. Also, you know, the efforts that we do in economic development, we want to make sure that they're hitting with the strategic plan that you all have approved and adopted. So I've kind of set up my remarks and the stuff that we're doing related to those. And then throughout the presentation, kind of noting some recent projects and then recent successes that we've had in the community. So the first is the Economic Development Plan, as promised. And again, it's a 5 focused area document that was established. Curtis Brown set it up, and so we last looked at it in 2021, and then we just looked at it again this year with the Economic Development Advisory Board helping out with that review over several meetings to make sure that we've got it right. Not a whole lot changed because a good document just needs tweaks. And so with the 5 focus areas, the first being existing business, so that's really our retention and recruitment efforts in that regard. But a new item added to that was the Urbandale Uplift Project, which I'll be talking about in a later slide. Second is the investment attraction, so making sure that we're getting in front of the development community, either brokers, property owners, businesses, to encourage investment in Urbandale. Third is the workforce development. We know that having good skilled labor in town is of utmost importance for our businesses, and so efforts to work on that, and a new one was added to help coordinate efforts with the school district to get them engaged early in careers in town. Fourth is the competitive policies, so that's the incentive programs, making sure that we're competitive in that space. And then lastly is the high-performing organization one. That's making sure that us as economic development staff are still learning along the way, because things change all the time. So with the efforts and some of the things, there's 3 of the strategic plan goals that kind of we dabble in with economic development. And the first is the Vibrant Douglas Corridor item. And so we set up, there's kind of 3 main components that we're working to help advance those. First is the Downtown Urbandale Assistance Policy that was recently approved. The second is the Small Area Plan Development, so being involved with that through the comprehensive plan. And then thirdly, the mall redevelopment that we've been working on for several years now. To the assistance policy, so this was approved at the end of last year to focus on encouraging investments along the Douglas corridor, particularly from the eastern property line, city boundary to 72nd Street. Here's a map of that. And so you approved this, and we set it up for your approval to be a flexible policy to kind of meet the needs of the property owners as they want to invest. So a lot of things are eligible to be assisted with. So public infrastructure, demolishing of buildings, and that was the first project to demolish the Plaza Florist building on 66th and Douglas to help set that up for redevelopment. Land assemblage is an eligible project should a developer or property owner want to do that. Facade improvements, so tenant improvements as well, and then also encouraging mixed-use development. Lots of things to be eligible for. Through this, we haven't had a whole lot of takers yet. I mean, we've got to build some momentum here, but I have spoken with over 15 property owners about this thing to try to start to drum up some interest in some projects with that. So stay tuned. There are interested folks, but with the comprehensive plan still coming and those types of things, we want to make sure we do it right the first time with these projects. The second part of the revitalizing the Douglas corridor is that small area plan development. You went through this with our consultants 2 weeks ago, so I won't go through the details, but it's important to have this document right so that we have the vision set, so then we can start creating the tools and also encouraging the activities that we want to have through that. So it's all of those things I just mentioned about with the assistance policy, but also on city infrastructure of shared parking types of opportunities, because there are parking spaces, but they are all privately owned. Is there a way that we can do that? So I've had conversations with property owners that have ample parking to be a part of a solution when we get more uses in the neighborhood. And then thirdly, a lot of our time in economic development is invested on getting the mall redeveloped. And we know through the updates that we've given with you, as well as through the media, that Buccaneer Arena has not happened as quickly as we all would have liked. And so we wanted to make sure that this was in here. If it was absent, that would be notable. And so we are still working on that project with our private partners, being the Bucks and the mall, as well as encouraging additional uses on the campus beyond that opportunity. So recently there was a pickleball project that has been announced to go towards the mall. So we're working through that.
Is that in Urbandale?
Correct. It is in Urbandale, yes.
It's
in
at
the
Kohl's?
former Kohl's building.
Is that where the hotel was supposed to go?
No, the hotel will be north of that in the parking lot. Yep. And so then the third point on the mall redevelopment is that we remain in constant communication with our partners, particularly our private partners with the mall and the Bucks, but as well as our public partners, City of Des Moines, as well as the state with their assistance that they've provided to the project. On to the next strategic plan thing that we really dabble in, and this is that dynamic competitive business destinations. Not my words, but it's an important thing to make sure that we are still top of mind within the metro community. And so three things that we're working on through that is certainly the North Park and Plum small area plan, the additions to 128th and Meredith. That's what I've talked to you all about tonight with those three projects happening there. And then also making sure that we have our incentives dialed in right to encourage the investment that we want to see. So to the Plum and North Park small area plan, this is going to be an exciting part because this is right along some of the busiest interstates in the country and has great vacant land for commercial mixed use types of development. And so the small area plan, as you well know, is heading in that direction and doing that. So we're excited to get that vision underway and then work with the private development partners that are out here, property owners and the businesses to make that a reality. And most notable is in really leaning into that type of project is the recently announced Total Health Experience campus with the Brain Health Center as kind of the first announced project there. So it's a 5-building campus that we've been working with planning and engineering. We meet very frequently on this project to make sure that everything is dialed in and getting done on time And all the questions are answered as we go along the process. And this is one of the sample documents here on the screen that shows the higher level of the public spaces that are going to be in this campus. This is kind of going towards that mixed-use environment, that more urban type of experience that the small area plan is starting to point towards. So a great private document. This is kind of it happening in action with this vision being the first to come out of the ground with this kind of new thought process for North Park. 128th and Meredith. So here's the tilt-up concrete on the Prairie Tower building. On the upper left to upper right is the big 450,000 square foot industrial building. That's the floor plate there. The Fast and Fresh just recently opened within the last year. And then the New Horizon daycare, which is under construction right now. Kind of adding those amenities, adding that it's going to be happening, more employment is going to be happening in the area. With the interchange at Meredith, now everyone getting used to it being there, we see a lot of great potential and then additional development to come after these. And then the third on this the dynamic business strategic plan effort is our incentive program. So the ones that we use often and frequently is the standard 5-year, which we've talked about tonight already. The 3-year 90 for redevelopment we have within our urban renewal plan, and then also the Class A office, which we tweaked a couple years ago to focus on more kind of sustainability measures, as well as more having it be buildings that lean towards that Class A office, having a more objective standard as it relates to that. So that's been efforts that we've done. And then another new one we've added in the last couple of years is the site prep assistance policy. That's to help property owners to visualize their property after the use that they're doing. So there are properties in town that are owned by people that aren't developers, but they need to understand what they have so that when that day comes, they know what they've got and then what others are looking at their property for. It's helped out with the 100th Street interchange, which was the first project that took this on with Western Urban Development. The other new one is the Downtown Urban Assistance Policy. I've already talked about that one. And then we've always got the revolving loan fund to help out with assistance with state programs and state assistance that projects are eligible for. All right, the third strategic plan thing that we dabble in is the Make Urbandale Unique. And there's a couple things that we do with that. One, in 2023, we've been focusing on the Urbandale Business Connection, which is our center spread at the business record that we do every year. For this year, for the next 12 months, we're going to be focusing on businesses that make us unique. So looking at those retailers, looking at those experience businesses that are in town. Future one's going to be Living History, shocker, but that's going to be one of them to do that. So just this month, we focused on the Urban Grill, one of our great restaurant institutions that we have here in town that makes your Urbandale unique. We've got a lot of great things, and this is kind of a year to celebrate the things that we do have that folks sometimes we forget about. Like, oh yeah, that is awesome that we've got. It is truly unique to be in Urbandale with these businesses. And then the other unique thing is the Urbandale Uplift Project. This is year 2 going on. I don't think Curtis and I knew just how much work it was going to be to pull this off. But it's been tremendously rewarding, not just from the volunteerism, but the relationship building that we have with our employers in doing this. And version 2.0 is happening October 12th. We're soliciting all the businesses to join up and do that. We've got 27 projects available to be adopted for the day, and we're set up to be another great party at Walker Johnston to kick things off on the Thursday afternoon of October 12th. So it's been really fun, and we've had an intern this summer and through this event to help us out. So kudos to Colleen Kane to keeping this thing working, so I don't have to be focused on it as much as we were last year.
As an aside, we as the council should participate and do a little project ourselves.
What if her business already is?
Well, you can.
I have a program that might.
Just throwing that out.
I think that's a great idea, Matt.
Okay.
And new this year, there are some free agent projects where if you are a small group that couldn't take on a project, you can jump into a larger group to do that. So Meals from the Heartland is one of those that can take a lot of people and do that. So that might.
Are they bringing it to us? Or are we going?
You're going to, well, you can pay for them to come to you.
I know.
So that is my quick presentation. I might have been faster than 15 minutes, but this is the last slide. One of the things that was truly remarkable was to be able to cut the ribbon on worldwide logistics this year. This was in our project list. It was in Curtis's project list before I even got here. We've been working on this project for so long. So for it to have this day, a beautiful day here last, a couple weeks ago in July, to be able to celebrate their new building on Meredith. This is one of the only office buildings that was built this year in the whole metro. So that is home to Urbandale, making it truly unique. And Worldwide's a great company to have in town. And I was just talking with them today, and they said, "Hey, thanks for everything you've done with that," because we're going to be highlighting them again in the business record, because this is news worth noting. So
I have noticed a lot of traffic backup getting out. I know we don't have a light there. Probably wouldn't put one in, but it does.
Worldwide or?
Yeah.
Okay.
At peak times.
Sure. Yep. Signal timings are always, as new things are going to happen, we're going to keep needing to tweak it. Brandon and Tim are not bashful in letting me know.
I'm sorry.
Tim and Brandon are the main guys
Okay.
here at Worldwide. They are not afraid to let us know what's going on out there. So there was some signal timing issues at the interchange once they started going in there, and we got that. John and his team nipped that right in the bud real quick, which was great. And so haven't heard that one yet, but.
It's probably like 5 minutes, or 10 minutes a day, but.
Sure. It's good to have a traffic problem. It means lots of folks are navigating the area. Yep. That ends my presentation. Happy to answer questions, provide comments additional on topics that are of interest to you.
Aaron, do you need any more projects for Urbandale Uplift? I don't necessarily have any. I'm just curious.
We still have some available. So we've been marketing them out for about 4 weeks now. And we still got probably, I think there's like 12 projects that still aren't claimed yet. So next week's going to be my, hey, help us out in doing that. So
you have the list of projects already.
Yes, at urbandale.org/up,
It's listed.
you can go and you can click the link on our sign up page.
People or companies to adopt the the tree planting.
I'm calling it adopt, sign up, whatever the word is. Yep. And so we've been focusing mainly on our primary employers to be able to have first dibs of this, as well as we're working. The Uplift is a partnership with the chamber, and they send stuff out to their membership as well. We've been focusing on Urbandale businesses to help do these projects. So, we're always wanting more projects to do it. If we need to scramble and find more projects because we've got more businesses, that's a great problem to have, and I'll call you.
Hey, Aaron, you said that the downtown assistance program that we have isn't very popular right now. Why is that? What are you hearing from businesses as to why they don't want to participate, or are you hearing back from them at all?
There certainly are businesses that are interested, and I'm talking with them about trying to find the right things. Part of the challenge is the lay of the land for a certain project. So something that is vacant right now that wants to be something else. There's critical challenges in parking to be able to do that. If they want to turn this on for a restaurant use, they can't because they don't have the allowed parking to be able to do it. So hence the shared parking type of solutions that we're working through to make that problem go away. I tell people I would love to have a parking problem. That means that there are people down there in parking spots enjoying downtown Urbandale. So we've got to get that ball rolling, and we've got to make sure we do it right with that. We don't want to preemptively create a problem that we can't dig our way out of with that. Other property owners, they're happy the way it is. They bought it and they've expected this, and this is part of their operation. So some folks are like, hey, thanks, I'm glad you're doing this, but I'm just not a player in doing that. whereas others, trying to work with them to try to create that vision. Sometimes the idea isn't there. The want is there, but the idea isn't there. So I've always been willing to meet with folks to be able to identify what that could be and then try to figure out what that project is and how the city can help with that. So there's not one thing to address in doing it. And having the small area plan and really having hey, this is what the city as a community wants to see this area be, that will be really helpful. We kind of know where it's going, but it's always helpful when you can say, hey, this is an approved document, that this is where we're going. So whether your parcel might be a great redevelopment option, but let's figure out how that could happen. We're not there yet to be able to have those conversations.
Thank you.
I assume that will get more vetted as we get the comp plan approved and start really moving forward with that specific downtown development area and the other key areas as well.
Yes, I mean, certainly there's going to be more detailed work to happen after the comp plan because we're setting a vision, but if we're going to start talking about public infrastructure improvements or changes, we're going to have to need to do design things. We're going to have to start looking at the roadways, and we are working on what are those first projects to come out the gate to put more flesh on the bones of the document. There was one other thing I was going to say, but now it's escaped.
I hopped on that bike of yours and settled on over to.
Hey, I'm in there. Just don't hit me if you're in the corridor and I'm there.
Aaron, what was that Uplift website again?
Urbandale.org/up.
Up. That was like Urbandale Uplift, Urbandale. Okay, thanks.
All right. Great. Thank you, Aaron.
Yes, thank you much for the time.
Thanks, Aaron.
All right, then item 10.10 is to go over the CIP program timeline. Nikki?
Mine will be even faster than 15 minutes because then I have no pretty slides. Earlier this last week, August 17th, you all should have received the CIP timeline. This is just getting prepped, so staff is working through the actual CIP document right now, creating all the new pages for the document itself. We do our internal reviews for that. At the end of October, we try to finish audit, put that to bed, and then move right into CIP. So just to get it on your radar, the committee will be meeting 11/27. We've typically done it in one meeting, so hopefully we wouldn't need the second one, but November 30th would be the second. The CIP public hearing on December 19th. You as a council will receive it to you on December 22nd, and then we will have council review and approval January 9th of 24. So that's kind of the tentative layout. That matches how we did it last year. Based on a lot of factors from legislation that changed this last year, I'm building the CIP with assumed a flat debt service. We're not going to go down the 10 cents. If you recall, we did not call and pay off the bonds in the spring. We used that instead for projects. So my 10 cents kind of got lost in that, but we have an awful lot of rocks stirring around in our little pot here this year to figure out how best do we reorganize our debt service. How do we want to go forward, knowing interest rates have changed significantly. Fed is continuing to meet and raise those. So our call and payoff plan kind of got dry erase board. We had to start over. So Travis with Piper Sandler and I are working through that right now to see kind of what that looks like, but kind of based on our best attempt to read the tea leaves. If local option sales tax gets brought up again in legislature, there's the potential that that goes away, becomes part of a state. Who knows what that looks like? There's just an awful lot of unpredictable items right now, so we're not recommending a lowering of the 10 cents that we've been doing each of the years on the debt service, twofold because we didn't call and pay off the 23 debt in the spring, and we just not sure what they're going to do legislatively to us using those local option dollars. We do have still budgeted, if you recall, we are paying off the Fire 43 bond in spring of 24. So local option sales tax is being used. We are retiring that as planned. That's what we said we were going to do with that, and we are going to do it regardless of the fact that it's not going to be a huge interest savings, except the future years, of course, but it'll be about net. We're just reducing those future payments. But so that is still being done and planned for, and we'll retire our TIF bonds because we have TIF cash on hand that we've been accumulating to call those finally callable TIF bonds. But that's kind of how we're building it right now. We don't have a lot of specifics right now, which is normal for this time of year. We're still putting the document together, but wanted to kind of give you a lay of the land of that time, prepping it. Any questions? I don't have a lot of answers right now, but.
How soon will we let the committee members know of the schedule, since that's a tight timeline for a lot of people that time of year?
As soon as the committee is
working on the committee.
decreed, we will get it out to them.
I know we've had kind of a less than full committee the past couple of years, and scheduling conflicts have been part of the reason, so.
Had that discussion earlier this week with AJ and working on that, so that's in my court right now.
Any other questions? There you go. That's great.
All right, thank you, Nikki. All right, before we go into closed session, we'll do mayor and council items. Amy?
Just to bring you all up to speed, we did have the final interview for the Human Service Strategic Planning process, and we will need to convene the committee. I think if John's here, do we still need to convene the committee? Okay, so yes, we need to still do that, and then we'll be able to move forward on that. So, but that went well. And then, are you going to talk about the tour we did this morning?
Go ahead.
So Bob and I, Mayor Andewig and I went on a Complete Streets tour this morning, which was really fascinating to understand and see how road diets can help with calming traffic and making our spaces safer. And I assume if anyone's interested in seeing some of those activities, we went through 6th Avenue, Ingersoll, and down 2nd Avenue. Missing anything? But really informative, enlightening around just what we might be able to do in our own community with a Complete Streets program. And then Pedal for the Pantry is this weekend, I believe. So just putting that on folks' radar.
Yep. All right, thanks, Amy. Larry?
I got nothing major.
You have anything minor?
No, well, I mean, I could go minor all night, but no.
Okay. Matt?
I would just like to do a shout out to the Parks Rec Department for Party in the Park. It was a lot of fun, very good turnout. My son particularly enjoyed it. And then I'm also signed up for, I'm going to try to make it back. I'm out of town, but I'm going to try and make it back for Pedal for the Pantry. So we'll see. I'm doing the Western one. That's what I'm signed up for. So
good for you.
That's a long one. But anyway, that's.
We're going to have to miss this year. Adam?
Thanks tonight on the Urbandale Education Foundation. They did have their event on the next night after Party in the Park, but unfortunately it was about a 15 degrees hotter night than Party in the Park night. So, but a good fundraiser for the community. And then also with that, school starts tomorrow as well. So there's a lot of fresh drivers out on the road.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Pedal tomorrow.
Yes.
Along that lines, I was just going to wish all of our thousands of students returning to our many districts the best of luck on this school year. Couple of other things. I was driving to get here from a meeting from Merle Road down Douglas, and I think for the first time in my life, I noticed that there was an Urbandale flag on the flagpole at 70th and Douglas. I knew we had a flag because we gave it to Matt to take to Iraq. But I thought at some point we had talked about maybe taking a look at revamping it. And I think that just reminded me that we could revamp it when I saw it. So you can, take that for what it's worth.
We are working on.
Oh.
We are working on a flag redesign.
I didn't know if is that secret?
Yes. So.
Okay. Well, I just happened to
Stumble upon it.
see. I've never seen the flag there, and I'm sure it's been there for 25 years, the Urbandale flag. But I've never noticed that
Yes.
that was flag on the left, so.
So,
To be fair, I haven't either.
Okay, well, it's the one on the left.
so we'll be rolling.
Don't tell me if you don't. if
No,
I'm
there,
doing something.
there's been a plan to have a redesign of a flag, and stay tuned.
Okay, I will. I'm very excited now.
Since our current flag violates basically every protocol of a good flag, right?
Yeah, pretty much. So we've had some preliminary discussions. We decided to hold it back for some logistical reasons, but we're going to be rolling out that soon, so.
Well, I was just, I'm excited now.
Yeah.
So I'm glad I noticed it.
Yeah.
And then another thing I wanted to bring up and ultimately thank our fire department for is, as many of you know, saw in the news, there was arson at Stonegate Park in Clive, which is at Boston Parkway, just west of 156th Street. It was one of the first parks out in that area, so a lot of Urbandale families hold a special affinity to that park. It's the Spider Park. I had to look up what the name of it was. So the Spider Park was $150,000 in damages. It just makes me really sad. We've had lots throughout the metro of vandalism, and it just makes me sad. And I just hope that people take more value in the amenities that are offered. I mean, even snapping trees on 6th Avenue is so sad that we, can't have nice things, I guess, to say that. But ultimately, the Urbandale Fire Department, as the closest unit response, was able to extinguish the fire and prevent it from going further. And again, any opportunity to promote the fact that we have that agreement with Clive is so beneficial for both of our communities. So thank you, Fire Department, for taking care of that. And just keep your eyes open, I guess. Don't do stupid stuff. I don't know, any of that. It's really sad when someone decides that's the way to spend their evening. That's all I got.
All right, thanks, Bridget. Just update on MPO. We have finally decided, got the policy committee in a consensus to move forward on an open application process. We will be rolling out that process here shortly. So if you, yes, it's been a little bit of a trip in the last couple of months on that, but have got that at least going. So if we'll be looking and opening up that application process. So if you know of anybody that may qualify for that, you may steer them that way. So, all right, I don't have anything further. So with that, is there a motion to enter into closed session on pursuant to 21.51J Iowa Code regarding real estate?
So moved.
Motion by Blake, second by Goldberg. Discussion. Please vote.
Blake votes aye.
I shut mine down.
I'm not an app. I vote aye.
All right.
We just want to be like you.
2 minutes to run the bathroom.
I don't think they're gonna tell you now.